Board of Public Works into session, please, and could we have a roll call?
Mr. Collins?
Oh, he's excused, I'm sorry.
Mr. Frost?
Here.
Mr. Darazinski?
Here.
Mr. Engel?
Here.
Mr. Fisher?
Here.
Mr. Jaeger?
Here.
Mr. Plummer?
Here.
Mr. Snyder is excused. And Ms. Walker? Here.
The next order of business is approval of the agenda. We have one correction that has been brought into one of the motions as we proceed.
Make a motion to approve the amendment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the amended agenda. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Jim?
I'd like to know what that change is.
Okay.
This is it right here?
Yeah.
This is,
I think it's working in the first one.
okay,
Okay.
I didn't, don't be hiding my stuff.
Next order of business is accounts payable.
Oh,
We didn't vote on it? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, the same. Now the next order of business is accounts payable. So, we're minutes worth? Jesus. All right, let's start over again. The next order of business is C, approval of the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Now we're down to D, accounts payable.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to pay the current accounts payable. Are there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Mr. Darazinski?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins?
Yes.
Mr. Frost?
Yes.
Motion carried.
We're now down to the section of our agenda that is public comment on an agenda item. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment on one of our agenda items? If not, we'll move on to items of consideration.
Item number 1 is award bid calcium chloride.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to award the bid for this year's calcium chloride. Are there any questions or comments? Alan?
Does it take extra manpower to do this?
Hello, Mark Eisenberg, Director of Wastewater. No, it does not take more manpower. They can actually, in the past we've done 2,000 gallons per mile. Now we'll just pump up to 3,000 gallons per mile.
But so it'll be an even amount up.
Yes.
It won't take extra to do it this way.
We're putting on extra volume, but not extra manpower, yes.
I know I asked this question last year and I forgot what you claimed. Is this the same product that the road commission uses?
Yes, I actually checked with them on this, and they like the 38%. Because they only can apply it one time per year. We actually apply ours 3 times throughout the year.
Okay, that was, okay, thank you. I knew there was an answer, but I forgot what it was.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Mr. Darazinski?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins?
Yes.
Mr. Frost?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carried. Number 2 is award bid fleet vehicles.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to award the bid for the 3 fleet vehicles. Is there any questions or comments? Scott?
I'm going to vote no on this, but I would like to see it come back up if it fails, vote individually on vehicles.
Any other comment? Alan?
I was just wondering, are we doing fuel mileage on these things? I mean, to see whether, when we put, when we figure whether it's the best bid or not, do we consider fuel mileage in that?
Yes, it does, because that's why I've changed some of them. Before these were trucks, I'm going over to the Journey XXT, which is, some people call crossovers, but yes, that's the reason we're trying to go away from a truck and use different types of equipment to save on gas and fuel.
Okay, but even though when you have 2 of them in the same category, would that probably, is fuel mileage still considered, or I understand you're changing vehicles to be better, but let's just say you got two in the same category, would you?
For example, flex fuel, is that what we're?
Yeah, what I'm saying is if a Chrysler had 26 miles a gallon and a Ford only had 23, would we be considering that when we're doing pricing or? not
I
necessarily?
didn't necessarily on this one, it was, because they're pretty close to the same. When we go 2500 Chevy or the 250 Ford or the size of the engine really kind of dictates that. We did not get into flex fuel on this because we do have our own fuel station out the wastewater, and we only have enough tanks for two types of fuel, which is diesel and the regular gas. So we didn't, and most of the equipment's right there on the site, so I didn't look at using flexible fuel as an option. As far as Dodge 2500 versus the Ford 250, which one gets better gas mileage? I did not look at that.
No, it's
I assume it's close to the same.
Are these diesels or are these gas when you buy like the 2500 series?
This one here, usually we wait till we get up to the full 1 ton to buy diesel. Anything less than 1 ton, we usually do the regular gas.
Well, the reason I ask is because we got one pickup that's gas, it's 10 miles a gallon, and we have a diesel pickup, it's equivalent, and it's 22 miles a gallon. So, I mean, we start getting into a lot of money over the life of a vehicle.
Yeah, you're right, and that's a one we could go either way with on, but you're looking at additional 10 to, don't exactly, but there's a lot more money obviously for, I'll just
Right.
say that way, for diesel than there is for regular truck.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I too am going to be voting no on this for the reason that if it is defeated, that we can bring back the vehicles singly and look at opportunities for supporting local vendors.
I didn't hear.
I intend to, I'm sorry, I intend to vote no on this and hopes that it's going to be defeated. And if it's defeated, that we would bring back these vehicles one at a time so that we can consider the local vendors.
Any further questions or comments?
I might need a second to think about what he's
The
saying
right
here.
to accept or reject any bids.
Oh, yes.
It's all run through as one on the agenda right now.
That's correct. That, if I'm understanding correctly, this is a question of separating, voting no, then separating them, and use the merits of each individual. Jim?
I would ask that possibly I'd like to make a motion that we table this. We need these immediately. And the reason I would do that, because I'm hearing what the objections are to buy local. And every 2 years that I've been on this board, we've gone through it at least 4 or 5 times. And I think some of there are no, the reasons to or not to buy it local. We do have some language that's been proposed. I would like the board members who haven't been through that before have an option to look at all the times, all the discussions about it. I don't know how hard that might be to bring up, that this board or the full board has considered that to be a policy. And, you know, we've got a businessman over there who dealt in that business, and I think, you know, this much, why don't we wait till we have all of the DPW members here? There are 2 missing, right? And having said that, because I would like these people who are thinking, wow, we could spend more to go local. But I'd like to have you have the opportunity to see some of the discussion this board has had maybe on 4 different occasions as the board changes before we get into that again. And Marv, I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Is there a second?
And that's why I'm gonna ask to table it and ask that maybe those sections of the minutes, I think they can be scanned fairly easy, computerized, and give a chance before we get into this, that everybody have an opportunity to see what's been done over and over and over again. This is like a broken record, if you've been sitting on this for a while.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can get a second to table it or not.
I'll second.
Okay, that stops discussion. And we vote on that. Question now. So could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Wilkins?
It's a vote to table. It's a vote to table.
This is a vote to table, yes.
No.
Mr. Frost?
No.
Mr. Fisher?
No.
Mr. Jager?
Yes.
Mr. Derzinski?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
No.
Mr. Palmer?
No.
5 no, 2 yes.
We are now back to discussion on the motion.
Back to why I said I was gonna vote no, I didn't explain everything, but it's, and I've been here, Jim, sitting out there for everybody, they wanted to have a policy if it's within 2% or 3%. I've heard it all, you know, and I'm not, you know, there's 3 different prices here, you know, one's within 2%, 0.75%, and 9% per se. I don't say that you should look at each one of them individually, in my opinion. I'm not saying go with all 3 of them, but we as a board should be able to decide how, you know, if something's closed on that kind of money, you know, where we want to spend our money. Maybe we might think that this local dealer is a better, could service us better. You have to be able to look at these individually to decide. I don't want a policy that says, hey, if it's within 3%, you just hire these people. I think we should, as a board, should be able to look at these and say, each one of these, oh yeah, that's a good deal, you know, or, you know. That's why I want to go that route.
And
Right.
if I may, and I think the administrator, if that's the case, and we have done that in the past, this isn't the lowest bid, but we have had this experience, and that should be their recommendation. And we have followed that recommendation. But where do you draw that line? If the local bidders are going to get the bids, if it's at 2%, 1%, how about these out-of-town bidders? Well, they'll just stop bidding. They're not gonna sharpen their pencils if they know. And how many mosquito companies are selling their equipment? Bob Skolnick had the brake company. He sold a lot of plows in the city of Grand Rapids. I mean, that works both ways. And to keep pencils sharp and you take the low bid. And that's how people, I think it's gonna cost us, let's say it's 1%. Get 1% on this vehicle, we're gonna buy it. This vehicle is $30,000. What's 1% of 30,000? Huh?
What, $30?
Well, how about on
300.
300 bucks? How about if that's on a $15 million project? What's 1%?
15 million? I know you're testing me now.
No, it doesn't matter. You get my point. You get my point. That's huge. And it's gotta be, and we still have the opportunity to take the low bid, and just for what you said, if we can get better service, we have this record, we do it all the time. You know, but I like to see the pencils stay sharp on bidding. We have thrown all the bids out one time because of that discussion. You know what happened when they came back the second time? They were all higher. It cost us money.
Well, I think that we need to look at the bids. It's really up to us to determine whether or not we want to go with the low bid or what have you. Now, if you got someone out of town, they're gonna use gas to take it to have it serviced and all of that, but that would be a decision that we need to make, and that's an option that we have to accommodate local bidders.
And that's right, and that should be the recommendation. What are the recommendations? They're the ones with the experience with the out-of-town people.
I think what's important here is that, I said that I don't know because I wanted to consider the local vendor here also. But the problem that I'm having in here, Jim, is you're asking me to make a decision on 3 of them at the same time. And I think that each one of them has a merit on their own. I mean, Mr. Plummer brought it up, it's 1% on one and it's another 13% on another one. I'm not sure how I'd look at that situation until we look at each individual and know, but I agree with the fact that they were lumped together.
We're gonna spend $90,000 or $80,000 here. And I would sure like to see everybody on this committee to have the opportunity to have this discussion. We're not, you know.
I'm a guy that bids all the time. And the city of Muskegon has policy, you can be $1 off and you lose the bid. I've lost many to Grand Rapids. But what it has taught me is that I had to sharpen my pencil. And the thing about it is they wouldn't come over here and bid anymore if they gave it to me all the time, which would make it so I could run my pencil any way I wanted to. And, you know, he's exactly right. I think you have to really consider before you start doing this, what you're doing, because it might stop them from even bidding anymore. And we're supposed to be doing the best value for the taxpayer. That's just my thing.
Very good. I want to go back to that issue. They should be looked at individually, and it should be looked at their merits. And I believe that these local these local suppliers have to be paying the bill out there at that wastewater. So I'm pretty sure they have an investment in this too. I think they should be looked at individually, and yeah, a little bit. I don't know if that's a good way to go all the time, because there's the old cliche, you get what you pay for sometimes, especially in construction. So I can't go with that. I have to go with what I know is right. And I'm going to vote the way I feel is right on these, and I think it should be done individually. If I prevail because I'm on the local, so be it. If I don't, it goes the other way.
We're starting a slippery slope here.
I'm not sure, this is
Call for
too.
question.
Yes, it would be better. Let's vote and see where this vote goes.
Yeah, what are we voting for?
We are voting to accept the recommendations of the whoever's responsible for accepting the low bids on these vehicles. Yes or no?
Are we gonna buy as they recommended them? Those
All three
vehicles.
If you want to buy these 3, that's no right now.
Okay, so yeah, I can get that done.
We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Derzinski,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Plummer,
No.
Ms. Wilkins,
No.
Mr. Cross,
No.
Mr. Fisher,
No.
Mr. Jager.
Yes.
3 yes, 4 no, motion carried.
Is there another motion to, on the floor? I don't
Make a
know, Ted,
motion.
do we do this now, or do we go through our list first?
We can do it now.
Okay.
If I may. I'm still hot, and I know I can't make a motion to table this for the full board, and maybe to have this recommendation rethought. I can't make that motion, I've already been defeated, but somebody who voted no could. Let's buy ourselves some time here before we do something without the full board, and we can buy these next month. And I just think we're kind of setting, we're setting a precedence here, people, and we ought to have, this becomes a precedent.
Yeah, but Jim, was made to table and defeated.
It's right, but someone else can make the motion, I can't.
I think he's talking about a motion to reconsider. That be made by somebody on the prevailing side.
And I'd ask one of the other commissioners, let's just take our time on this before we start something we haven't done before.
Is there a motion to go on the floor?
I would make a motion that we look at these individually.
Support.
So the, okay, that is the motion. Is there any discussion or questions?
The only, I guess it's a, I don't even know if it's a concern or it is a question. I mean, between the two that are on here, the two low bidders, it's a few $100s, and trust me, a few $100s is a lot of money. Like you said, it could add up to be a lot of money. I mean,
Taxpayers' money.
absolutely. And once again, I believe that a portion of them folks out there at Great Lakes Ford are taxpayers as well. And they supply tax base into this county and to that wastewater. I mean, I think we should look at the local ones opposed to the
Well, I
out of
think
town.
first we have to decide whether we're going to look at them separately or move on.
Call for the question.
Okay, the motion has been made, well, Karen,
To look at each individual item.
separately and vote on each vehicle separately. Roll call, please.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Jagger?
Yes.
Mr. Derzinski?
No.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins?
Yes.
And Mr. Cross?
Yes.
6 yes, 1 no. Motion carried.
Okay, motion carried. Then I will ask for a motion from the floor on the minivan first. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion we buy the minivan from Ford Chrysler Jeep, 3146 Henry Street, Muskegon, Michigan, for a price of $22,128.
Support.
Motion has been made and seconded to purchase the minivan from Preferred Chrysler Jeep on Henry Street. Is there discussion or comment? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jagger?
No.
Mr. Derzinski?
No.
Mr. Engel? Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
4 yes.
Motion carries. The next is a 3/4 4x4 truck, Liz Plow. Is there a
Mr. Chairman, I
motion?
make a motion to award the bid to Great Lakes Ford, Anthony Avenue.
No, second.
Motion has been made and seconded to award the bid to Great Lakes Ford. Is there questions or comments? If not, roll call, please.
Mr. Derzinski?
No.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Jagger?
No.
5 yes, 2 no. Motion carried.
Motion carries. The last order is for the minivan or crossover.
I'll make a motion we buy the Dodge Journey S XT from K&M Dodge Ram, 4100 Plainfield Northeast, Grand Rapids, for $21,835.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to purchase the van from K&M Dodge. Is there discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Derzinski?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Jagger?
No.
Motion carried.
Well, there goes $800.
We're gonna start going down that slope, I don't know why we didn't buy all three here.
Yeah. Yeah, that, then there's, but I really still want, please, that each of the commission, if you would, be supplied with, and this has happened, this is the fourth go-around on this particular subject. And there's $800 of sewer rates spent there.
Moving on, Karen, the next order, please.
Next item is award bid, kilometer calibration. Oh, no, award vehicle lubricants.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded to award the bid for vehicle lubricants. Are there questions or comments?
We've got a new bidding system too, according to Heath. Did we use that too when we do the, he's got a new way of bidding stuff? I think my question is more for you than his.
Oh, in regards to if it's going to Mitten.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one, I am not sure if this went, if it were received in January 11th. This should have went to Mitten, but I have to confirm that and get back with you. I don't know. I don't know, because the 9th is when we first took our first bids on Mitten.
Because it's just
January.
I don't understand Barney Castle and all them not bidding on this exactly, you know?
I could probably shine some light on that if you want.
Yeah.
Vesco Oil Corporation has been the one that we've used in the past, and we started going out for bid, which we're fine with that. However, that they actually have their equipment, it's no charge, into the system. In other words, their pumps pump the oil, their hoses, all the way to the actual tool that we use to put the oil in. So in the specs, we didn't want to buy that up front. So in the specs, we said that must be included in your overall bids. And again, if they got to come with that up front and put that in the system, it could be a lot of money up front. So I think that's one reason they didn't do it. I guess my solution to that is we look at going and buying that equipment and install it in our drive system. And the next time when we come up to bid this, we can take that part out of it and maybe we'll see more bidders because they don't have to come up with that overhead cost. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Derazinski?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Motion carried. Number 4 is award bid kilometer calibration.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is the one that we had more information after your initial packet was printed. So we'll be using the white page for this. Is there any questions or comments?
I did, Ted, I noticed on the original, you had approved it, on the addendum, it wasn't, but I just take it for granted you've seen this. Okay.
Any further questions or comments? Not roll call, please.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Mr. Derazinski?
Well, oh, I'm sorry, yes. Okay.
Stay away from the.
I'm used to getting beat up.
The next section of our agenda is 4 informational items.
I'll make a motion, we accept and place on file.
Or
The motion has been made and seconded to accept the 4 informational items and place them on file. Is there any questions or comments?
what can we do to get that Zephyr site online? And somehow, you read this and it's, they can't afford to do it. I mean, that waste is polluting our river and lake. I mean, we need to look at somehow to get them to be able to pump that flow out to us. I don't know how much of a beating we have to take on it, but it's a win-win situation for Muskegon County. That just doesn't make sense to let that keep flowing out into the lake.
Well, they're treating it on site.
Not as efficiently as we could.
We're asking you, Dick.
I think, and I understand where you're coming from, Scott, because I feel the same way, but I think the question is not whether we can do it more efficiently than them. We have to look into, and I shared this with Mark here a couple of days ago, I believe that they are treating it to a different level for release than what we would. And I don't know what that level is, and they don't seem to share that. And I think if we can find out what parameters they're treating it to, and we could probably answer our own question. I don't know what's getting dumped back in the river, and I would like to know.
Well, that's, I just say, I don't know what it takes for us to find out, to try to alleviate their problem and maybe save.
Cheaper cost. Cheaper cost. I mean, it's, I don't know the exact number, but it's less than half, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it should be in our best interest to take that waste and put it out that wastewater and see how we can handle the flow. If it will keep that lake and river clean.
The question is, do you want to accept the cost to do it? Alan?
All they gotta do is Mesquite Township lower their price to $65,000 and they got the water.
Mr. Chairman, I got a few years in rate making, and that's not something that's legal. That's a problem. You cannot charge one customer one rate and another customer another rate just based on whether or not his is a little darker ground than yours. The treatment standards are the same, and that's an issue that the wastewater users committee as well as our staff have been struggling with for about 4 or 5 years. How do we get down to an acceptable rate? How do we justify a secondary rate, either on volume, or whether we take a look at what are we actually doing from the standpoint of surcharges? Can we lower it down that way? We've looked at it in a number of different ways. The issue with Zephyr, the issue with Cordova, the issue with no matter where you're picking up that groundwater is to what level of treatment are you bringing that before you put it back into the ground? And that's something that the state seems to be the one that's making the decision before they dump it in the water. They aren't gonna let us dump our wastewater in the Muskegon River at some lesser, treatment level than what they're doing down there, but, I mean, they have to, their standards and our standards are different. And I think that's the issue that's on the table.
Well, it's, I mean, yeah, it'd be nice if Mesquite Township could lower their rates, but in the end, it's still Muskegon Lake and Muskegon River. It belongs to everybody here. So it would be in the best interest of Muskegon County and that wastewater to try to come up with a way to accept that water. I mean, we can all stick our heads in the sand, but I mean.
Well, we can accept it, it's just the cost difference.
Well, I just, that's my suggestion, that we come up with a way of doing it.
But for me, I'm a taxpayer, and if you use to it the cheapest possible way, and it seems to be effective to what must meet their specs, so I think what they're doing is probably the best thing.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business to come before? We have to vote on accepting that, aren't we? All those in favor of accepting the for informational item, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Well, the items will be accepted. Now we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business to come before this committee? Any old business? If not, is there any new business to, Helen?
I think this is where it falls. Mr. Warner, how come the generators are getting bought for the juvenile hall and the one over here? How come they don't fall under Public Works instead of Ways and Means?
John Warner, Public Works Department. The reason those don't fall under Public Works is because they are being done through facilities, and facilities is under the full board, under the general fund, not under the enterprise funds that Public Works deals with.
Okay. I mean, I just don't really understand that one, but
That's why.
okay. I got a couple other questions also. We had conflicting ideas whether this generator that's over here, the 20 kW, is wore out or it ain't wore out. What kind of shape is it in?
I can't really answer that because I haven't seen a report on it. I know it's undersized for what we want to do. Whether it's worn out or not, I just don't know.
Well, the reason I ask this is because if it's most of the way wore out, why aren't we trading it off and trying to get one of the generators at least cheaper? Because just throwing it in the back of a room somewhere or something doesn't seem like it makes much sense to me. So, because I'm thinking about this full board meeting, asking them to at least put it in as an option to take that as a trade-in. So what I'm asking you is there a place you're gonna use it that's good for the county? If it's gonna get put in the back of a building, it isn't good for the county.
At the moment, I do not have a specific use for that home.
See, another thing that scared me is we would hook this to another building, and 2 years from now, you come to me and say, okay, it doesn't run efficient over here, we need another one. So now, a building that didn't even have one now has one. So, I mean, I trade equipment off as it gets wore out and get a new piece in its place. So I'm wondering why we just don't trade it off, or at least have that as an option. And I will be asking that full board, but maybe you can come up with a reason for it in the next 3 or 4 days. Okay, that's why I'm warning you.
All right.
I am considering.
We'll look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Any other new business? If not, this is the section of our meeting set aside for public comment on a new item. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on a new item? If not, we need to go to closed session to review some legal options. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go to closed session. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
They're gonna want me to take a
Mr.
note.
Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Wilkins? Yes. Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Mr. Derzinski?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Motion carried.